Welcome to the Mom Owned and Operated podcast, the podcast about moms and for moms, where we have candid conversations about running a business, raising a family, and remembering ourselves. I'm your host, Rita Suzanne, a single mom of four, digital strategist, and provider of no-nonsense business strategies and tactics. Hi, this is Mom Owned and Operated. I am Rita Suzanne, and this is Sonia Lopez. And today we're just going to talk real candidly about what it's like to be a mom and have your own business. Sonia, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Rita, for having me on your podcast. So I am an energy empowerment and manifestation coach and a mom and a wife and a daughter. Mm-hmm. I have been coaching for about 11 years, and my business has ebbed and flowed. I took a little break some time ago when I became sick, and I also got a corporate job, but I'm back to coaching, and I'd love to share with everyone the truth behind the veil.
Love it. I'm so excited. So when you were working in corporate, what were you doing exactly?
So my background before I became a coach was in human resources. Yeah, so I went back to work in human resources.
I used to do that too. So yeah. It's so different, right? Because the mindset being in human resources or even in corporate is you have to really follow these, guidelines of what everybody thinks is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I actually had this conversation with a friend the other day. Because for me, human resources always was about the people, the employees. Mm-hmm. And nowadays in corporate, it's more about like what you just said.
The rules, right.
The rules and, this is what it is. And that's probably why I didn't last in corporate.
Right.
Because I'm meant to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad everything is good, but I would love to know like what your story is of like how you got into coaching and, how manifesting works, and tell us all the things.
Yeah. So I have always been a person who's very interested in what most people call woo-woo stuff, because my mom studied metaphysics when I was very little. Mm-hmm. So I was always into the law of attraction, the law of vibration, all these things that are really science-based, but most people think they're just like, airy-fairy.
Well, because they see the, the standards, societal standards, right? And doesn't fall within it.
Absolutely. Like the vision boards and the gratitude journals and all of that.
Which are awesome. I love all of them.
They really are. And I always say to people, if it works for you, fine, but I'll share a little bit about my story and you'll see why I've shifted the way I teach manifestation from what the mainstream teaches, because it can be so much more richer and a profound transformation can happen as a result of it.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So I became a coach after, I was home with my kids were little at the time. Mm-hmm. And I always had this feeling like from the time they were about like maybe they were like 5 and 7. And I had this feeling of like, my purpose is greater than this. Mm-hmm. I was home with them and I was happy to be home with them, mothering them, but I knew there was something bigger for me. I just didn't know what that was. Mm-hmm. But, you have that feeling, right? Like, yeah. And, then in 2009, my mom passed away suddenly. Mm-hmm. And that kind of became my wake-up call. I was like, life is pretty short and you don't know what's going to happen. So that was the catalyst for me to start setting the wheels in motion to seeing what I wanted to create in my life.
Nice.
And so I hired a life coach and I worked with him for 6 months and my life took off. Mm. And having had that background in human resources, I love working with people. So I set forth on getting my life coach certification and became a coach and started building my business while my kids were little. Because
even though that wasn't even your intention when you signed up for the life coaching.
Not at all. I just loved the results I got. I thought, wow, I love helping people. Mm-hmm. Plus I can be home while I build my business. I can still be home with my kids. It's a win-win.
Right.
So I started doing that and, it was all going well. It's definitely work to be an entrepreneur, as I'm sure you know. Mm-hmm. And then in 2014, I started to get sick and I would go to doctors and they couldn't find what was wrong with me. And it just became this like unraveling of trying to
History,
figure out what was
right.
going on. I was
Right.
really tired and really, you might even say it was like depression, but they didn't diagnose me as depressed. It was very strange. And then in 2015, I went through another life transition in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And we separated, and I decided to get a job for financial security
Right.
and all that stuff. Well, in that job, I was still going through the process of figuring out my healing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2016, my husband and I got back together, and I was still working, but the universe has started to show me the way out.
Right.
Like I didn't
Right.
belong there. And
Mm-hmm.
when I say show me, I mean like things were happening that I kept rationalizing to tolerate.
Mm-hmm. But
But
looking back on them, you realized they were signs, or in the moment, did you realize? Well, no, because you were rationalizing them.
I didn't realize, and also I was, so to give you an idea, what ended up happening is I was diagnosed with 5 autoimmune conditions, and my nervous system was depleted. So when your nervous system is depleted, you don't really have a filter when you're going through like what I call the shitstorm. And so that's why I was using the rationalizing to tolerate, because I needed it was like my survival mechanism.
Right.
And so finally in the midst of that, I met really amazing things, even though I was
still working in corporate
and depressed, like sick and depressed. So I started to question the mainstream manifestation of like positive thinking and, and I went down the rabbit hole of neuroscience, better understanding the mind and body connection, because I also am certified as a yoga teacher and understand a lot about the nervous system. So the manifestation of these big things opened me up to believe that, well, if I manifested these things while I'm going through this turmoil, I can also manifest my healing.
Yeah.
And once that happened, then, and I had the realization, then the universe started to conspire to help me
even further.
Get the pieces of the puzzle to my healing. And all of this happened within a span of 4 years. So it's not like things just fall on your lap.
Exactly.
I want to make that clear for everybody, because again, manifestation can get that, like that, people think that, oh, it'll just
instant,
happen.
right?
It's like, yeah, I found the parking spot, No, this was grueling. And so then in 2018, again, I was getting the signs about leaving the job and getting the signs about my healing. And in 2018, something happened at work that was just like the nail.
Yeah.
And I remember having this really profound inner peace of, I got to cut the cord here. This is it. And I did. And then
that's it.
That's it. That moment, I went in the next day, I resigned immediately. And that was it. And I took a leap into the unknown.
I love it. So you, during that transition period, you were not working with clients. You were just focusing on your corporate stuff and your kids. And I mean, understandably, right?
Yeah.
But you felt the calling back to coaching because during that whole time, even though you couldn't really focus on it.
I had put coaching on hold because since I was not feeling well and I was depleted, I didn't want to coach from that energetic space.
I get it. Yeah.
I wanted to really serve fully to my clients. And so I put it on hold for that reason. But at the end of 2018, so I quit my job in middle of 2018. And at the end of 2018, I went back to the doctor. Now, remember, I had gotten all the pieces of the puzzle for my healing, including one of the doctors that I worked with. And he and I worked together to create a protocol that would help me. And then at the end of 2018, when I went back to the doctor to do the tests, all of my numbers came back normal.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And, the mind is so powerful, right? Like, and I think that people underestimate how powerful it is. Plus, in addition to the other things that you were doing.
Yeah. But you know what, Rita, what I love to add here when you talk about the mind, what was really important, because what I uncovered, remember I said before that when I was in the shitstorm, I manifested those amazing things that didn't just come from thinking, because I wasn't thinking positively. I was thinking very negatively.
Right.
It came from my belief system, which is the subconscious mind.
I would love for you to tell us more about that and the manifesting in general, because I love your perspective is that it's so different than what normal people I don't want to say, okay, just scratch that part.
Yeah, no. Like I say, it's all good. And what I'm finding is that people either, what happens with manifestation is either they give up quickly because the things aren't happening. They're doing all the things. I'm writing my affirmations. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the things aren't coming. And then that tells me that there's either a belief that isn't in alignment. And I don't care how many affirmations you write. If the belief is not there, the affirmations won't work.
Right.
And
because you're saying stuff and your mind's like, that's bullshit anyways.
It's like you're sprinkling glitter on shit.
Right.
The shit's still going to smell. It just looks pretty.
Right. Exactly.
So, and then the other part of the manifestation that I realized was the emotional part, the feeling. Yeah. So it's not, the thoughts are great, but if you don't have the feeling to back up the thoughts, you're not emanating the energy. Because when I talk about manifestation, we're manifesting every day. Every day you're creating your life, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. That's up to you. When I talk about manifestation, I'm talking about using the law of attraction and the law of vibration to call in and to co-create with the universe.
Right. So it works as a whole versus, just this one thing or one piece, because I know that I've heard other people say that, 80% of our thoughts are negative, and subconsciously, we don't even realize that they're negative. And by doing the affirmations and stuff, it's almost like you're calling in or retraining your brain. But like you said, it's not just that one thing. It has to be in a whole, right?
Yeah, you have to align the thought with the emotion. So that's how you start to really shift the pathway in the brain. The neuropathway happens as a result of a chemical release in the brain. And that's what the emotion is. Emotions are chemical releases of the brain. Yeah. So when you release the chemicals by feeling, right? Like if I say to you, oh, Rita, you're a millionaire. And you're just sitting there like,
bullshit, right?
Yeah, okay. But if I'm like, oh, Rita, you're going to make $5,000 next week. You're like, I can subscribe to that. And you start to feel excited about it. Then the chemical release in the brain starts to happen. The release enters the cells and your body's what emanates the energy out to call it in.
I love all of that. And it's so true because it's more believable and attainable, right? To believe that I can make 5,000 versus that I am a millionaire at this point, because I know I'm not.
Exactly. Your subconscious knows you're not.
Right. Well, my whole body, my whole being knows.
Right. And so, so the idea is to just create that alignment little by little, because again, it's all related to the nervous system and our brain. And, if your nervous system isn't prepared to receive these big things that you're wanting to call in, you can do all the work, the outer work. But if your inner landscape, it doesn't match that,
so
you're going to get frustrated.
Right. So is your advice then for other women to start smaller what would you recommend for someone who's...
So if somebody's new at this, I say, yes, start with the affirmations, but make them relatable to you. Like, maybe you don't write today I'm a millionaire, but you write something more believable. And it doesn't have to be completely realistic, because part of it is, you're going to grow in this process and you want to go to the edge of your comfort zone. You want to go where you feel a little like,
uncomfortable. Right.
Yeah, that's exciting and uncomfortable at the same time.
Right.
So I would say start there. And definitely if you're not manifesting, maybe you're somebody who's been, doing it a little bit and you're starting to get frustrated. To those people, I would say, check in with your belief system.
Right.
Check in. And all you have to do, honestly, the subconscious mind communicates to us, especially in our sleep. All you have to do is ask it, what am I believing about this that is not allowing me to call it in?
Right.
And I call them downloads, the signs or the synchronicities, or somebody will say something and you'll be like, oh, that's a sign. I get it. It's all it's super cool the way it happens, but you'll start to get your answers. Yeah.
And that's funny, because before we started, I was telling you all about how my dreams have shifted since I've become an entrepreneur. And, because you learn so much about yourself as a whole, being an entrepreneur, even though that it's hard, I think that you grow as a person and continue to grow. And so I love that you're saying, because I do feel like when I wake up sometimes, like I've had a dream about something and I'm like, oh, okay. Like it's like if I'm having an issue, I wake up and I feel, better,
Yeah,
I feel like there's a resolution.
absolutely. That's why I call it the inner landscape, because there's so much wisdom in that.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I mean, we could go down this rabbit hole of like even exploring your shadows, which are those parts of ourselves, the aspects of ourselves that we don't like to show the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's magic in that energy too, in exploring those dark parts and putting them into the light in a way that ushers you from a place of safety,
Mm-hmm.
not from a place of like ripping a Band-Aid, that you can actually use that energy to alchemize and become magnetic to manifestations.
So what do you think is the biggest, like what's stopping women from doing this manifestation and other works to grow?
Fear of growing, and
Mhm.
that they think it's a one and done. So I say to people, if you're manifesting every day, think about it. If every day, look at it as like you're the projector and your life in front of you is the movie screen, right? And you're projecting out the
Mhm.
same reality over and over because you're not taking the time to point the needle in the direction of where you want your life to go. It's just much easier to get up and just, I call it Groundhog's Day, like do the same thing over that you've always been taught, that you were told. But if you start to shift that, it's a little scary because it means that you're going to have to change. And this as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
that we're always shape shifting and changing. So the
Right.
number one is fear. And number two is that you're not looking at manifestation as a practice. You're
Mhm.
looking at it as a fix.
That's true. And I feel like a lot of people, they give up really fast when they do start manifesting. So I love that you're saying, look, this is a long game. This is not, like you said, one and done. You have to give it to time. And as you go on, your belief system is going to adjust.
Expand. Right? Yeah. And it's not only a long game, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. I love
that you can in fact create your reality. Yeah.
So for someone just starting out, like what would you say like is your number one tip? Like this is what you need to do to start today to start manifesting. I know it's like per person based, but what is your recommendation? I lost you for a second. Oh, we're back.
Oh, there you are. So what I would say to them is be willing to look at your life, all of it. And that can be scary too, because sometimes we don't want to face our shit. Sometimes there's stuff that we're just kind of like sweeping under the rug, I particularly love using a tool that allows me to see every area of life. And then I rate myself like on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied am I and fulfilled in each area? 10 being I'm super happy. Right. And rate yourself. And then the parts that you rate yourself like 6 or below, ask yourself, well, why am I 6 or below? What needs to change? And that's it. Start there.
I love that.
And maybe set some goals for the ones that you're not satisfied in.
Okay. So being a mom and running your own business, how are you managing all, balancing all of the things, time for you, time for your family, time for your, business?
I don't believe in balance. I mean, my kids are older, they're grown men practically, but they still, like to bother mom once in a while, and not really bother, but they still want to need me. Right. And to be honest, I fall into like, oh, they need me. I think it's important to understand that, to take the pressure off that there is no such thing as balance, that sometimes things will have to give way. Yeah. And so the key there is check in with those feelings of guilt, which moms often feel because guilt is a very heavy energy that blocks your manifesting magnetism. And give yourself some grace. Yeah. And knowing that you can never truly fully have balance. Well, and hopefully you have a supportive system.
Right. Yeah. Because there's some things that just need more attention or, and different periods of time. So there's no way to really equal it out. But, a lot of times I think that moms will not take care of themselves in order to take care of others, or their business comes first and they just continue to fall by the wayside. And then years down the line, they're like, I don't understand why I'm so unhappy.
Yeah. So what I would say to that, and that is one part that cannot be amiss on this journey, is you have to put yourself first. And I know that sounds trite because you probably hear it over and over,
Right.
but, and the funny thing is that when you do put yourself first, and it could be 3 habits in the morning, that's all. Like drink your water, move your body, and meditate, or whatever it is for you.
Yeah.
Commit to those 3 habits like your life depends on it. And they can be changing, like fluctuating habits, that will help you fill your bucket so that you can then serve others. But it cannot be any other way, because you'll end up like that. I believe that's one of the reasons I got very sick.
Right. Because you're focused on everybody else, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if someone wants to hire you or find you online, where can we find you?
So they can find me. I'm very active on Instagram at Sonia Lopez Coach. So it's SONIA LOPEZ Coach. And if they want to go to my website to learn how to work with me, I also have a free manifesting meditation that I offer. They can go to SoniaLopezCoaching.com. So SONIA LOPEZ Coaching.com.
And I will leave the links to everything below. So thank you so much, Sonia, for taking the time out and telling us all about manifesting and how we can incorporate this to create a little bit of balance, or at least, to grow and move forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Rita.
Thank you. And there you have it. I want to encourage you to remember that being a mom who runs her own business is not easy. We all struggle, but just keep moving forward and don't forget to make time for yourself. As moms, we are usually the first thing to go to the bottom of the list. If your business is overwhelming you and you need real solutions, not just some sugar-coated suggestions, apply to work with me at ritasuzanne.com/apply.